How's it going out there, drivers? Hope everybody out there's doing great, staying safe, and staying out of trouble. This is some footage from yesterday over near Orlando. Sitting in a rest area. I'm not too far from the highway, so y'all may pick up some of that background noise. But yeah, that rest area or service plaza that's right near Orlando is where this footage comes from. Some pretty cool stuff in there. Hopefully y'all enjoy it. Anyway, oftentimes on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, email, a lot of people will get this question, or a lot of drivers will get this question. And it's what company should I start with? Is Stevens a good company? Is CR England a good company? Is Western Express a good company to start with? And it's such a loaded question because it's so hard to answer. It really depends on you. It depends on your situation. It depends on where you live. Some of these companies are better for you if you live in certain parts of the country. Like for example, if you live in Dallas, Stevens Transport may work great for you for a starting company. You may even stay at Stevens a really long time because you'll be in Dallas quite a bit. That's their only terminal in the country. CR England, if you live in Salt Lake City, CR England or Swift might work for you, or one of the other. There's many trucking schools up in that area. But there's so many factors that play into it. Some of these companies have different home time options. Some of these companies have different types of fleets. Some of these companies run a lot more local or short haul, like US Express, for example. They got a ton of Dollar General account, Walmart accounts. Probably half of their fleet is on some type of either local or regional route. They got OTR too, but their OTR really isn't OTR. It's primarily Northeast. When I ran for US Express, I was in Maryland, Pennsylvania, Virginia, West Virginia. I was in those states a lot, like a whole lot. So if you're gonna ask a driver, if you're interested in getting into trucking and you're gonna ask a driver where you should start at or how you should go about getting your CDL, there's a ton of other things that should come along with that question, such as where you live, whether you have a family at home or not, what you're looking for out of trucking. Some people just look to get their CDL. They come out here, they work a year running OTR, and then they go home. They run a dump truck at home, or they go to running a concrete mixer, which, by the way, I used to do the concrete mixer thing. If you're going to do that, you might as well be OTR. It's so many hours that it's just unbelievable. I used to go to work at like midnight, sometimes 2 a.m, and I'd work till 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, and that was 6 days a week. Sunday was the only day I got off if we weren't busy. If we were busy, I worked Sunday too. But there's such dynamic to it. It's the same thing whenever drivers ask about, experienced drivers, when they ask about what's a good company. I'm looking at changing companies. Where should I go? So many questions in there. So many different ways that could be answered. My opinion of a good company and your opinion of a good company may be different. That's why whenever I talk about different companies out here, I've talked about Tyson Foods, I've talked about Stevens Transport, Creek Carriers, US Express. I've talked about a ton of them. I try not to give just my opinion on it. I try to tell you the good and bad, like what I encountered that I thought was good and what I encountered that I thought was bad. That way you go into it fully knowing, hey, Snapper said this, so this is probably happening over here, or it's not all good, because not every company's great. I've worked for little bitty companies. I've worked for large, massive companies. So it just depends on what you're looking for. My best suggestion for an experienced driver and even a new driver is get a pen and a pad, sit down, write down your top 3 things that you want. Whatever your top 3 things are, whether you want to make this amount of money, you want to be home this much, You want to work for a company that has APUs. You want to work for a company that has newer trucks so that you're not having to worry about DOT so much. Whatever it is you're looking for, whether you want to run regional, whatever it is you're looking for, write down get three of them that are non-negotiable. And if you can find a company that matches at least two of those three things, you're probably doing pretty good, because it's hard to get all three. Some of these companies out here might give you all three, but it's hard to get all three. And as an experienced driver, even after you get out of school, once you get to working, always be looking at other companies. I'm always looking at other companies. Even if I'm happy where I'm at, I'm always looking at other companies. I always have 2 or 3 in my back pocket that I've talked to that are always sitting there waiting. Because the reason being is you just never know what's going to happen. You never know. You never have any number of things can happen out here. A company can go out of business. You get in an argument with somebody, get fired, quit, whatever. If you're like me, I don't like going without a job. I always have a job. So I always keep 2 or 3 in my back pocket that I've communicated with. A good example of that is years ago, I went to orientation at Roadrunner in Irving, Texas, I believe is where they were at that time, or that's where I went. And I decided in the second day of orientation that it wasn't going to be for me, that company wasn't going to work for me. So I walked out. I told them that, it would be best we go ahead and part ways now. And I left. I walked outside. I made a phone call. I had another job lined up. I went to the hotel. I gathered my things up, which I was paying for the hotel. But I gathered my things up, got everything packed up. The other company sent over an Uber. I got in the Uber. And I think it was a day and a half or 2 days later, I was in their orientation. You just never know what's going to happen. There's just no telling. There's any number of things can happen. So always be looking. Always be kind of, if something happens, you know where you're going to go. You know your next move all the time. You know what I'm saying? And if you're happy and you never have to move, that's awesome. At least you never have to move and you're happy wherever you're at. But don't get caught slipping. But back to my original point, it's just really hard to answer those questions. Look at the reviews. I will say one thing about reviews. Most reviews are going to be negative, because when someone has a positive response, they're normally not going to write a review. Most of the time, when people are happy, they're not writing a review. Now, when they're angry, they're going to go write a review. And when they're angry, you don't know if it was something they actually did. Maybe it was a problem that was one of, something there. A good example of that is I was talking to a driver about a month ago up in Minnesota. And I was in and out. I came in, I picked up my load and was leaving. I literally was at this location a couple hours. And I ran into this guy by the guard shack. I guess he was waiting on Uber Eats. And he tells me, he says, "How long you been here?" And I thought he was asking how long I've been with the company, so I answered that. But he was actually asking me how long I'd been at that location. And I told him, I said, "I don't know, I got here a couple hours ago." He said, "You're already loaded?" I said, "Yeah, I'm loaded." He said, "Man, I've been here 3 days." I said, "Did you send a message? Because we have a Qualcomm on the truck and you got to send a message. Lets them know you're ready for a load." He said, "I've been calling, ain't been answering." I said, "Why didn't you just send a message?" "Oh, I don't mess with that Qualcomm thing." Okay, well, you're going to have a hard time, because there's only a few people in the office and, so you really need to use that Qualcomm. But we ended our conversation and went our separate ways. But you got to think about it. Now, when someone runs into that driver in the future, his complaint's going to be, "Oh, I sit too much," or this or that. Well, he's not going to tell you the whole story. He didn't want to use the Qualcomm, so that's why he was sitting. He was waiting, trying to get somebody on the phone, which any of y'all experienced drivers out there know with some of these companies, it's next to impossible to get somebody on the phone unless you're calling recruiting. They're about the only ones that answer the phone. So that's just the way it goes. But anyway, I hope this is useful. Hope y'all understand. And if you email me asking about a company, or you contact me on one of the other social media platforms asking about what company you should start at, please include like where you live, what type of running you're looking for, what type of money you're looking for, because that can be drastically different. You also have to remember that these beginning companies don't pay as well. That's a starting point. That's a foot in the door. They tend to not pay as well as the more experienced companies do. But there's so many other things in there. Include as much as you can. That way I can, give you a good response. And not just me, but whoever you're talking to can respond to you properly. They can give you, there's a ton of YouTubers out here that'll answer that question for you, but just give them as much information as you can. That way they can respond to you with a better educated guess as to what would be a good place for you to start. Anyway, y'all take care. Y'all stay safe. Stay out of trouble. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Y'all keep trucking. And like I always say, remember, we are all family, even if we are a little bit dysfunctional. Keep trucking.